Long ago, in a small village surrounded by rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived a young girl named Zuba. Her life had once been filled with laughter and warmth, a home where love seemed endless. Zuba's mother, known for her gentle touch and kind heart, had been the soul of their little family. But when illness took her away, everything changed. Zuba's father, a hard-working man with kind eyes, did his best to keep the family together. He loved Zuba and her younger brother dearly, but the weight of raising two children alone began to show. In time, he decided to remarry, hoping to bring back the stability and happiness they had lost. That was how Adana came into their lives. Adana arrived like a bright light, charming everyone she met with her beauty and grace. At first, Zuba thought her stepmother might bring back the love their home had lost. But it didn't take long for the truth to reveal itself. Behind Adana's soft words and elegant smile was a heart as cold as stone. She treated Zuba differently from the start. While she showered Zuba's younger brother with affection, she kept Zuba at arm's length, speaking to her only to criticize or assign more chores. Adana was careful, though. Around Zuba's father, she played the role of the perfect wife and stepmother, making it impossible for Zuba to tell him how she truly felt. Though Zuba tried her best to stay strong, the house that had once been her safe haven now felt like a cage. Yet even in the face of this quiet cruelty, Zuba refused to lose hope. She would look out at the hills beyond their village, imagining a life where she was free, a life where her mother's love still guided her. What Zuba didn't know was that her journey was just beginning, and it would take her far beyond anything she could have imagined. After Zuba's father passed away unexpectedly, everything in their home seemed to crumble. Zuba was heartbroken, having lost the one person who had always been there for her. But Adana, her stepmother, showed no signs of mourning. Instead, she became even colder towards Zuba. It was as if her father's death had finally freed her to do what she had always wanted, to get rid of Zuba. At first, Adana acted as if nothing had changed, but soon it was clear that she had a new agenda. She started giving Zuba harder chores, accusing her of being lazy when she couldn't keep up, and scolding her for things that weren't even her fault. Every mistake Zuba made, no matter how small, was turned into an argument, and Adana made sure her father's absence made Zuba feel even more alone. Zuba tried to stay strong, but without her father to support her, it became harder each day. Adana's behavior grew worse. She began taking away Zuba's small comforts, the things that used to bring her peace, like the little room she had in the corner of the house. Adana would complain about her presence, saying that she was a burden and that the family couldn't move forward as long as Zuba was there. It didn't take long for Zuba to realize that Adana wasn't just trying to control her, she wanted her gone. Adana started plotting ways to make Zuba leave. She spread rumors about her, telling neighbors and relatives that Zuba was trouble and that she caused all of their problems. She made sure that Zuba's own family, once so close to her, began to turn against her. Zuba felt like she was losing everything. Adana had already started planning her escape from the life Zuba had known, but Zuba was determined not to give up without a fight. However, little did she know, the battle she was about to face would take everything she had. One day, Adana decided that it was finally time for Zuba to leave. She had spent weeks planting seeds of doubt in her mind and in the minds of others around her. Adana made sure everyone, including Zuba's own relatives, believed that Zuba was the cause of all the family's struggles. She blamed Zuba for their financial problems, the tension in the house, and even the small arguments that had started to happen more often. Adana's manipulation grew stronger, and soon it felt like there was no place left for Zuba. One evening, when the house was quiet and the moonlight shone through the windows, Adana confronted Zuba. With a cold, stern voice, she told Zuba that she was no longer welcome in the house. "You're the reason everything has fallen apart," Adana said, her words sharp and cruel. "You need to leave. You're nothing but a burden on this family." Zuba was shocked and confused. She didn't understand how things had gotten so bad so quickly. She tried to explain herself, to tell Adana that she'd always done her best. But Adana wouldn't listen. Instead, Adana gave her an ultimatum. Either she would leave willingly, or Adana would make her life unbearable until she had no choice but to go. Feeling trapped and with nowhere to turn, Zuba realized that she had no other option but to leave. Her heart broke as she packed her things, knowing that this wasn't the home she had once loved. She had been cast aside, blamed for things she didn't do, and pushed out by the woman who should have cared for her. But even in her sadness, Zuba refused to let the tears control her. She took one last look at the house that once held so many memories and stepped into the unknown, determined to find a way to survive on her own. Adana watched her leave with a cold satisfaction, knowing that her plan had worked. She had pushed Zuba out of the house, but what she didn't know was that this was just the beginning of Zuba's journey, a journey that would show Adana just how wrong she had been. Zuba stepped out into the world, heartbroken and scared. She had never imagined she would have to leave the only home she had known. The streets felt empty, and she had no place to go. With only a few belongings in her bag, Zuba wandered through the town, unsure of what her next step would be. She thought about turning back, but the cruel words of her stepmother echoed in her mind. Adana had made it clear she wasn't welcome anymore. The first few days were the hardest. Zuba had no money, no shelter, and no one to turn to. She slept on park benches and in alleyways, too proud to ask for help from strangers. She survived on whatever food she could find, sometimes leftovers from markets or kind people who gave her a little change, but every day felt like a struggle. Zuba's hands were dirty from searching for food, and her clothes were worn from the harsh conditions. But despite everything, her spirit remained strong. Zuba knew she couldn't stay on the streets forever. She started looking for work, but it wasn't easy. Most places turned her away, saying she was too young or didn't have enough experience. But Zuba wasn't the type to give up. She kept trying, knocking on doors, offering to work for free just to prove her worth. Slowly, she found a small job cleaning in a local cafe. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Every day Zuba worked hard, saving every penny she could. The work was tiring, but she didn't mind. She knew that this was her chance to build a life, to prove to herself that she was stronger than Adana had ever believed. Zuba didn't let the hardships defeat her. With each challenge, she grew tougher and more determined. Even when it seemed like the world was against her, she held on to the hope that one day things would change. Slowly, she began to rebuild her life, step by step, knowing that her struggles were just the beginning of something greater. One rainy afternoon, as Zuba was cleaning tables in the small cafe, a man came in. He looked tired but kind, with a warm smile that seemed to light up the room. His name was Cabello, and he was a businessman who often visited the cafe. He noticed Zuba working hard, always focused, never complaining. There was something about her that caught his attention. After a few visits, Cabello started talking to Zuba. At first, their conversations were small, about the weather, the cafe, and the food. But soon, Cabello began to ask about Zuba's life. Zuba hesitated at first, unsure if she could trust him, but Cabello's gentle nature made it easier for her to open up. She told him about her struggles, about being thrown out by her stepmother, and how she had been fighting to survive ever since. Cabello listened carefully, his eyes filled with understanding. He had known hardship in his own life, and he saw something special in Zuba. Her strength, her determination, and her unwillingness to give up. He told her that he believed she had the potential to achieve great things, but that she needed guidance and the right opportunities. "I see something in you, Zuba," Cabello said one day as they talked over coffee. "You're not meant to be stuck here forever. You're meant for more." Cabello offered Zuba a chance to work with him in his business. He wanted to mentor her, teach her skills that would help her grow and build a better future. Zuba was surprised at first, unsure if she was worthy of such an opportunity. But Cabello assured her that he believed in her and he would help her every step of the way. With Cabello's help, Zuba started to learn about the world of business. He taught her how to manage money, how to communicate confidently, and how to make decisions. Zuba worked hard, soaking up every lesson. Slowly but surely, her life began to change. She moved out of the small cafe, found a better place to live, and started gaining more confidence in herself. The pain of her past still lingered, but now she had a purpose and a path to follow. Cabello's mentorship opened doors for Zuba that she never thought possible. He gave her not just skills, but the belief that she could create the life she had always dreamed of. With each passing day, Zuba became more certain of her potential, and the secret opportunity that Cabello had offered her was the turning point that would lead to her success. Years went by, and Zuba's life changed in ways she had never imagined. With Cabello's guidance, she worked harder than ever, learning everything she could about business. She stayed focused on her goals, never letting the struggles of her past hold her back. Cabello helped her build her confidence, and soon she was making decisions on her own, running small projects and gaining the respect of those around her. Zuba's hard work paid off. She saved money, invested in her skills, and eventually started her own business. It wasn't easy. There were many challenges along the way. There were days when things didn't go as planned, when she felt like giving up. But Zuba remembered everything Cabello had taught her. She refused to let fear control her. Instead, she kept pushing forward, learning from her mistakes and improving with each step. Her business grew steadily. Zuba became known for her smart decisions, her honesty, and her strong work ethic. People began to trust her, and soon she was offering jobs to others, giving them opportunities just like the one Cabello had given her. Zuba's company became successful, and she started to live the life she had always dreamed of, comfortable, secure, and full of possibilities. Despite all her success, Zuba never forgot where she came from. She used her position to help others, especially young women who were struggling like she once had. She built programs to support those in need and offered mentorship to those who wanted to build a better future. Zuba's success wasn't just about money. It was about making a difference in the world around her. Looking back, Zuba couldn't help but feel proud of how far she had come. From being cast out and abandoned, she had turned her life around, becoming a strong and successful woman. She knew that without Cabello's support, she might not have made it this far, but it was her own determination, hard work, and belief in herself that had made her dreams come true. Zuba had proven to herself, and to the world, that she was capable of achieving anything she set her mind to. One evening, as Zuba sat in her beautiful office overlooking the city, she received an unexpected visitor. It was an elderly woman from her village, someone she barely remembered. The woman hesitated, nervously holding a letter in her hands. "I've carried this secret for too long," she said. "But you deserve to know the truth." Curious and uneasy, Zuba listened as the woman began to speak. Slowly, a dark story unfolded. The woman revealed that she had worked for Adana years ago, back when Zuba's father was alive. She confessed that Adana had been hiding something all along. Zuba's father hadn't died of natural causes, as everyone had believed. His death had been part of Adana's plan. According to the woman, Adana had grown tired of Zuba's father. She wanted control of the family and its small fortune, but Zuba's father stood in her way. The woman explained how Adana had poisoned him slowly, making his death seem like a sickness. She had covered her tracks so well that no one had ever questioned her. Adana had even bribed the local doctor to keep the truth hidden. Zuba's hands trembled as she listened. She couldn't believe that the woman who had destroyed her life had also taken her father from her. The pain of the revelation was overwhelming. For years, Zuba had blamed herself for not doing more to protect her family, but now she realized that Adana had been the true villain all along. The letter in the woman's hand was even more shocking. It was written by Adana herself, addressed to someone Zuba didn't recognize. In the letter, Adana boasted about how cleverly she had executed her plan and how no one had suspected her. The evidence was clear. Adana was guilty. Zuba felt anger rising in her chest, but she also felt a deep sadness. Her father had loved and trusted Adana, never knowing how cruel she truly was. Zuba's heart ached for the man who had tried so hard to give his family a good life, only to be betrayed by the woman he trusted most. This truth changed everything. Zuba realized that she couldn't ignore what she had learned. Adana's cruelty had to be exposed. It was time to confront her stepmother and make sure the world knew what she had done. This was no longer just about justice for Zuba. It was about honoring her father's memory and making sure no one else suffered at Adana's hands. With the truth burning in her heart, Zuba knew what she had to do. She had stayed away from her old home for years, but now it was time to return. She wasn't the frightened, helpless girl Adana had once cast out. She was strong, successful, and ready to face the woman who had caused her so much pain. Zuba arrived at her childhood home on a bright morning. The house looked smaller than she remembered, worn down by time. Adana was sitting on the front porch, looking just as proud and cold as she had been years ago. But when she saw Zuba step out of her car, dressed in confidence and power, her eyes widened in shock. "Zuba, what are you doing here?" Adana asked, her voice sharp but uncertain. Zuba didn't waste time with pleasantries. She walked straight up to Adana, holding the letter in her hand. "I know what you did," Zuba said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know the truth about my father's death." Adana's face paled, but she quickly recovered, trying to act calm. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said with a fake smile. "You've always been dramatic, Zuba." But Zuba wasn't the scared girl Adana used to control. She stood her ground, her voice rising with anger. "Stop lying, Adana. I have proof. You poisoned my father and took everything from us. And then you threw me out like I was nothing. You ruined my life, but you won't get away with it anymore." Adana's mask of confidence cracked. She stumbled back, stuttering as she tried to deny the accusations. But Zuba didn't let her escape. She showed her the letter, reading out Adana's own words, the evidence of her crime. Adana's hands shook as she realized there was no way out. Neighbors began to gather, hearing the commotion. They watched as Zuba confronted Adana, their whispers growing louder. Adana, once so proud and respected in the community, now looked small and weak under their judgmental eyes. "Why, Adana?" Zuba demanded, tears in her eyes. "Why did you do this to him? To me, he loved you. We trusted you." Adana finally broke, falling to her knees. I wanted a better life," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I was tired of living in his shadow. I thought I could do better without him, and without you." Zuba stared at her, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. She had waited years for this moment, but instead of satisfaction, she felt a heavy weight in her heart. Adana's confession couldn't bring her father back or erase the pain she had endured. "I'm not here for revenge," Zuba said, her voice firm but calm. "I'm here for justice. You'll answer for what you've done, not just to me, but to my father." With those words, Zuba turned and walked away, leaving Adana to face the consequences. The neighbors' judgmental whispers grew louder, and Zuba knew that Adana's once perfect reputation was ruined. For the first time in years, Zuba felt a sense of closure. She had faced her past and finally taken back the power Adana had stolen from her. After Zuba's confrontation with Adana, the truth spread quickly through the village. Neighbors who had once admired Adana for her grace and charm now whispered about her betrayal. The evidence Zuba shared, the letter and the old woman's testimony, was undeniable. Adana's dark secrets were finally out in the open, and there was no way for her to escape the truth. At first, Adana tried to deny everything. She claimed Zuba was lying, trying to ruin her reputation out of spite, but no one believed her anymore. The letter, written in her own hand, proved what she had done to Zuba's father. The people in the village were shocked and disgusted. How could someone so trusted and respected commit such a terrible act? Soon, the community turned against Adana. Friends who used to visit her stopped coming. Shopkeepers refused to greet her. Even the children whispered when they saw her on the street. Adana, who had once walked with pride, now kept her head low, avoiding the eyes of those who once admired her. The authorities got involved too. With the evidence Zuba provided, Adana was investigated for her role in her husband's death. Though the crime had happened years ago, the law caught up with her. She was questioned, her lies unraveling as more people came forward to share what they knew. Adana's mask of perfection was shattered, and the truth of her cruelty was exposed for everyone to see. Her downfall didn't stop with her reputation. Adana lost the home she had taken over after Zuba's father's death. With no friends and no money left, she was forced to leave the village she had once ruled with her false charm. She became a lonely figure, a shadow of the proud woman she had been. For Zuba, Adana's downfall wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. The people who had doubted her finally saw the truth, and her father's memory was cleared of the lies Adana had spread. Zuba felt a sense of peace, knowing that Adana could no longer hurt anyone else. As Zuba stood in the village one last time, she looked around and realized how much had changed. Adana's power had crumbled, and Zuba had risen above everything she had been through. Adana's downfall was a reminder that lies and cruelty never go unpunished, and Zuba's strength was proof that the truth always finds a way to shine. After Adana's downfall, Zuba thought her journey had come to an end. She had uncovered the truth, found justice for her father, and reclaimed her life. But fate had one more surprise waiting for her, something she never expected. One day, as Zuba was organizing her father's old belongings that she had taken from the house, she found something curious. It was an old photograph of her family. In the photo, there was her father, herself as a young girl, and a small baby in her father's arms. Zuba froze. She had almost forgotten, but the picture brought back a memory, a faint one, of her baby brother. He had been so little when her father passed, and after that, it was as if he had vanished. Adana had never spoken about him, and over time, Zuba had assumed something tragic had happened to him. But seeing the photo sparked a new hope. Determined to find out the truth, Zuba began asking questions around the village. Some people remembered a baby boy, but they didn't know what had happened to him. Others had no answers. Finally, Zuba returned to the woman who had revealed the truth about her father's death. With some hesitation, the woman admitted something shocking. Adana had sent Zuba's younger brother away to live with a distant relative after their father's death. She had done it to get rid of him, just as she had gotten rid of Zuba, seeing both of them as obstacles in her plans to take over the family. Zuba was heartbroken and furious. How could Adana have hidden her own brother from her? But she didn't let her anger take over. Instead, she focused on finding him. She followed the clues, tracing him to a small village far from her own. After weeks of searching, she finally stood at the door of a modest home. Her heart raced as she knocked. The door opened, and a young man stood before her. He had her father's eyes and a familiar kindness in his expression. Zuba's breath caught in her throat. Are you my brother?" she asked, her voice trembling. The young man, whose name was Tayo, looked at her with confusion at first, but when Zuba explained everything, about their father, about Adana, and about her search for him, tears filled his eyes. "I always felt like something was missing," he said. "I didn't know I had a sister, but now it all makes sense." The reunion was emotional and overwhelming. Zuba hugged Tayo tightly, tears streaming down her face. She had lost so much, but now she had found a part of her family again. They spent hours talking, sharing stories about their father, and filling in the gaps of their lives. Tayo had grown up not knowing the full truth about his family. But now, with Zuba by his side, he felt a sense of belonging he had never known before. Zuba promised to never let them be separated again. For her, finding Tayo was like finding a missing piece of her heart. Their reunion was a new beginning. Together, they decided to honor their father's memory and build the family they had both longed for. For Zuba, the pain of the past was slowly healing, replaced by the joy of having her brother back in her life. With her brother Tayo back in her life, Zuba felt a sense of completeness she hadn't felt in years, but there was still one thing left to do. She needed to face Adana one last time. Zuba wasn't looking for revenge or answers anymore. She wanted to close this chapter of her life for good. One afternoon, Zuba went to see Adana, who now lived in a small, run-down house on the edge of the village. Adana was no longer the proud and commanding woman she once was. She looked frail and defeated, her once polished appearance now a shadow of what it used to be. When she saw Zuba, Her face flickered with surprise and guilt. "What do you want, Zuba?" Adana asked, her voice weak and uncertain. Zuba stood tall, calm but firm. "I don't want anything from you, Adana," she said. "I came here to tell you that I forgive you." Adana looked at her in disbelief. "Forgive me," she whispered. "After everything I did to you, after all the pain I caused?" "Yes," Zuba said. "Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Holding on to anger only hurts me. You took so much from me, my father, my home, my brother. But I survived. I built a life for myself despite everything you did. And now, I'm letting go of the past." Tears filled Adana's eyes. She bowed her head ashamed. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she said quietly. "I was cruel to you and your father. I let my greed and bitterness destroy everything." Zuba took a deep breath. "You're right. You don't deserve it. But forgiveness isn't about you. It's about me. I won't let your actions define my life anymore." Adana looked up, hopeful. "Does this mean we can start over? Can I be part of your life again?" Zuba's expression hardened. "No, Adana. I forgive you, but I can't forget what you've done. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I've moved on, and I'm building a new life with my brother. There's no place for you in it." Adana's shoulders slumped, realizing Zuba's words were final. Zuba turned to leave, feeling lighter than she had in years. She had faced Adana, not with anger or hatred, but with strength and grace. She had broken free from the pain that had once held her back. As she walked away, Zuba felt victorious. She had taken control of her life, overcome every obstacle, and refused to let the darkness of the past consume her. Adana's power over her was gone, and Zuba could finally look to the future with hope and freedom. This was her victory, not just over Adana, but over everything that had tried to break her. Zuba's journey had been long and filled with pain, but it was also a story of strength, hope, and transformation. From being abandoned and betrayed, she had risen above her hardships, proving that no matter how dark life seems, resilience and determination can lead to brighter days. She had fought for justice, found her brother, and reclaimed her life. Most importantly, she had learned the power of forgiveness, not to excuse the wrongs done to her, but to free herself from the burden of anger and hate. As Zuba stood by the window of her new home, watching the sunset, she reflected on everything she had been through. Life had tested her in every way, but she had survived. She realized that the truth, no matter how painful, always has the power to set people free. It had exposed Adana's lies and brought peace to her father's memory. Truth had also led Zuba to reconnect with her brother, giving her the family she thought she had lost forever. The moral of Zuba's story was clear. Life will bring challenges and betrayals, but strength comes from within. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means choosing peace over bitterness. And truth, no matter how deeply it's buried, will always find its way to the surface. Zuba knew her story wasn't just about her. It was a message for anyone who had faced struggles, felt broken, or lost hope. She wanted others to know that even in the darkest times, there is always a chance to rebuild, to find happiness, and to heal. Standing stronger than ever, Zuba smiled, knowing that her journey had made her who she was, a survivor, a leader, and an inspiration to all. If Zuba's story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.